All right.
We are recording. We are indeed. Good morning. Whoops. There we go. Trying to find you on the screen. Hello, my beautiful friend, Vital Germaine, all the way from Las Vegas.
Hello, love. How are you? It's good to see you.
Cape Town is in the house with Las Vegas. It's like my second home, isn't it?
What a distance. I mean, a distance in terms of time, in terms of connection. There is no real distance when you're connected with people.
No, and we always had that connection. Well, I'm trying to think when we met,
It was,
2015, I can't even remember.
I think it was 4 years ago. And it's strange because in terms of energy, I love talking about energy. There are some people that you meet, but there are some people that you meet, and for whatever reason, there's no specific reason, but there's something that resonates, that you either feel very comfortable, you either feel that you know them, and there is some type of, and when I say attraction, I just mean an element of recognition. It's almost like, oh, I know you, don't I? And I remember feeling that with you, and not to get into the physical aspect, but you stood out in the crowd, and that's partly a reflection of your energy, of who you are as a person, but also your physical manifestation. But there are some people who are physically very attractive, but their energy is not quite right, and it almost takes away from the beauty of who they are. But either way, it was a strong connection, and here we are 4 years later. You're in South Africa, I'm in Vegas, and the connection is still quite powerful. It's amazing.
Absolutely, and we've stayed connected, and yeah, I mean, you've become part of my daily routine of checking in on my Vital, because here you are in Vegas. I mean, people are listening to you thinking, who is this man? So I'm going to let you introduce yourself, because I'm not.
Well,
you have a long list. All I know, whoever's watching this and now, or whoever's watching this in future, whether it's a year, 2, 10 years down the line, this is probably one of the most special men that I have met in my journey in the last few years, especially with where I've been going. And you have really, with your story, elevated me. So you're part of this creation of me. So thank you. So who are you?
Who am I? Wow, there are many, many layers of the onion to peel away. I guess the easiest way for me to start is I have a very multicultural background. So I am a Belgian national with a British accent, born in the Democratic Republic of Congo, Africa, who got to live the American dream by way of a French-Canadian circus. So once upon a time, I was an acrobat defying death in Cirque du Soleil in Las Vegas. And the way that life goes, we can make a plan, we can have a vision and a mission. And what I've learned since is that you have a sense of direction, but at any given moment in that journey, you need to sometimes make a left turn and not resist, and simply embrace that this is the new path that I'm meant to travel. And at first it doesn't make sense, and we resist it, and woe is me. I broke my leg in Cirque du Soleil, and it was woe is me. And I fought it and I resisted it. And then here I am now, 8 years later, and I look back on that one moment where I broke my leg, and that was the defining moment that put me on this path, which is actually a now much stronger and more powerful sense of purpose that I could have not envisioned at the time.
No, sure. The next stepping stone. I mean, life is all about stepping stones. So what are you up to now? I mean, what did the circus took you? The circus took you to where you are now. I mean, writing a book, writing 3 books.
Whoa. No.
More. There's more.
Yes, there's more. I have now written
my word.
6. I've now written 6 books. Yes.
It's a good number.
A little bragging right there. Well, I'm aiming for 7, and then when I get to 7, there'll be more. But so over the course of, depending on where you are in your timeline, so the first book that I wrote was 8 years ago. And I wrote that book in alignment of where I was emotionally, spiritually, and even physically. It was a memoir, and it started actually as a cathartic exercise where I needed to purge a very dark, tragic childhood. And so that journey simply began because I needed to let it out. I needed to get it out. And in that process, as I slowly shared it with people, I realized there was meaning, and I could turn pain into purpose. And so for any listeners or any of your colleagues or friends, we all experience some element of pain, some element of regret, some element of hurt, suffering, maybe even depression, doubt. And if you are able to somehow step out of that and start analyzing it from a neutral perspective, and you can see this is a learning opportunity. And now with what I've experienced, I can now bring value and help others, which is basically what I'm seeing you do.
It's starting. Well, it has been. Yeah, I think I'm just being more aware of it now. Absolutely. And you do. I mean, Vital, you bring huge motivation and huge. I mean, you do. You speak to massive crowds in
Yes.
in Vegas, and
So, and
I
you know,
mean, so your body was broken, but you know what's, as you say, the universe stops you, and your body's broken. What do you do? How do you react? And look how you reacted. You took it
the
into. Yeah,
initial
how were you?
reaction, well, the initial reaction, like most people, when we experience tragedy and trauma, you've got to go through, there
Woe
are
is
several,
me.
woe is me. You have to grieve. I
Panic.
mean,
What am I going to do?
yep. And those are human experiences that you can fight them, but there's a certain period in life where you simply have to embrace it, and you've got to allow yourself to grieve, allow yourself to feel sorry for yourself. But the key is you can't remain there. At some point, you've got to tell yourself, okay, I've been grieving. I went through a depression 2 years while I was going through rehab. So, you know, 1 minute I'm flying in Cirque du Soleil in front of large audiences that are traveling all over the world to watch this show. I've got a metaphorically and literally a super cape. I'm defying death. I'm flying. And the next minute I feel like I've become a nobody. And that's a tough thing to experience. And to bring that in today's situation with COVID-19, a lot of people have temporarily maybe lost a sense of purpose, a sense of direction. What do I do now? Can I adapt? Can I transform into the new version of me?
All security is gone, blown up. So what next? I mean, I know what I did. What did you do?
Well, the what next is you have to start to go deeper into yourself, and you can look at that as a spiritual journey, as a religious journey. But either way, at some point, you can't blame external factors. You have to start being more introspective. And I think that oftentimes it actually takes something of an element of tragedy in our life to initiate like a warning sign. Okay, red flag is going, something has to happen. I need to change something. And so that you've got to acknowledge that. And once I acknowledged that I was responsible for what had happened, accountability. So now the question is, I can point the finger and blame the universe, blame God, blame all these other entities, or I can look at myself and be like, okay, what can I do about this? What do I now need to do to become the new version of me that is no longer the flying superhero, so to speak, in Cirque du Soleil? And it took time. Transformation does not happen overnight.
No, that you had been stopped. Your leg was now broken and you literally were stopped. Head-on collision.
That's
time
exactly
to wake
what it
up.
was. Yeah. And I like that metaphor because it was an awakening. It was a very painful awakening, but it was an awakening because it made me look deeper at life in terms of, it was amazing flying in the circus and in front of it was amazing. But a part of me, I wanted, and this is the strange thing, is I almost cried out to the universe for change. I just wasn't courageous enough to make it happen myself. I sent out signals like, oh, I'm tired of this shit. I can't do another show. I don't want to be here. And you're putting out energy.
And you created this accident then. Wow, of course you did.
You're telling the universe, I don't want this anymore. And the universe is saying, we hear you. I wasn't very clear or very, very specific.
And isn't that line, care for what you wish for?
That's exactly it. I wished for it. And the universe said, oh, you want this? Here it is.
100%. And that's in anything. I mean, you look at it in relationships. Oh, I'm not happy, and he's this or she's that. You look at, oh, I hate my job, or I'm not healthy. You actually talk yourself. You talk the language of the broken.
Yeah. And then you invite it, you manifest it.
Well, that's all we've been taught, though. We've been taught that, how to talk. Most of the population, it's don't be selfish. It's everything about not being what we actually are. So everything external is a reflection of who we are. Everything.
Absolutely. And the unfortunate part is it all usually stems from our childhoods. This is where our programming begins, because we have adults who themselves aren't really clear on what they want. They have this negative program. You mentioned earlier on off camera about the memory of our cells, how you would have to change and reprogram your energy. But all that energy, that can actually, I mean, if you want to get really deep, that can actually go back to previous lives, or even before you were born, the energy from your parents, from your grandparents, and energy, memory,
comes forward.
Every living cell and entity in the universe has a memory, and we are a part of that. And we can either what's the word I'm looking for, magnify that energy, or we can actually create a situation or an environment where we can change that energy to our benefit. But it takes a lot of internal work.
100%. And I think when I realized the word awareness is probably the biggest awakening for me. Awakening is awareness. And when you are aware that when you are born, and this is how my brain went into override when I couldn't understand my emotions and everything that was going on. And when I realized, or when I got the wake-up call of energy, that we are just all these pixels, my whole view on life, on everything changed. I had new eyes when I suddenly realized, if I'm made up of these pixels, so when I was a baby, or when I was conceived, when I was a thought and I was conceived, I was energy, that I was this pixel in my mum's body that started growing. Now, the oven was her frequency, her state of mind, her being, okay? And her vibration, her energy field is now my cocoon. So I only know, I'm picking up her story within me. I'm picking up my dad's story within me, because I'm half him, half her.
That's right.
You know. And so I grow as a baby. And when I'm born into a family that is a frequency already, the average of, they say you are the average of 5 people, but now you're the average of your family. So no matter what background, you have no control. You're born into whatever the type of family, your family, my family, all have this frequency, and we are unaware of the process of this frequency that we're born into. Is an external frequency. Our frequency comes from inside. So in order to grow that, it has to, like a mushroom, it has to grow from the outside. But we haven't been taught. We were never taught that, by the way, to go in, you have to get rid of everybody else's limiting thoughts and. But I think that's part of the journey, and the society that we're coming into now, or the new story that we're coming into now.
Well, you mentioned it, I believe there's now a collective shift in consciousness. For one, I'm realizing that more, and Vegas of all places, you would think Vegas will be the last place for any form of consciousness and spirituality. It's actually, I don't
know. You've got beautiful performers, and you've got incredible people that live in that city that are all following their purposes and
but
dreams.
it's becoming more apparent. People are also more openly expressing that, because there are all these wonderful souls in Vegas, but it's blocked by the facade of superficiality, of gambling, and I'm going to be a bit crude, of TNA, tits and ass, because that's what Vegas represents. So 100%. All those superficial facades almost have dulled and blinded.
Glitz and glamour.
Yes, but now what's happening?
It's the spotlights.
It's the bling bling. It's the distraction. But underneath that, there is, and
The
people in Vegas. But the people in Vegas, that we feel it. There's a shift, and it's quite powerful. And to bring that again to this whole COVID-19 thing, is everything that's happening now a coincidence, or is this just a fast forward, like a gentle kick up the bum to make us become even more aware, to make us transform and start questioning and evaluating and looking at things
100%.
differently? So we're literally on a fast track of transformation.
So what's happening is that if you think of it, fewer people in the world have been consciously aware. So they realize that their frequency, their being, they're not being molded by other people. They're stepping out of that story to become that being, okay? And now what's happening is that they become a frequency. You're working towards a frequency.
That's right.
Okay, you're working, it's an actual scientific fact. It's not la fairy stuff, okay? Everyone is a frequency, and when you are that frequency of source, which is unconditional love, you shine from the inside out, and you now got a whole lot more people, which is why in Vegas and around the world, these energies, that they're more lighthouses, they're more of these
beacons
coming in,
so to speak.
beacons. So these beacons now are lifting the energy fields, and you can actually, it's like putting oxygen into our oxygen. We are being allowed air to breathe because of those who are, everyone is different stages, and it's easier now than it was then, because you really were on your own back in the day.
But that's what I meant about Vegas.
Now, is it a coincidence or not? I don't know. I believe, I've always believed in magic. I believe in miracles. I believe in, it's like teamwork now. We're not alone. We never were alone, but we had this veil, this block of, we had to do the work on our own, and you're useless, and you. But when we realize that they're like-minded, and the me's of the world that are bringing this frequency up for everybody, now it's just holding hands. It's basically becoming a holding hands society and moment that we're going through now. And you can feel it. Like, I feel your strength. It helps me grow. Hanging around positive people elevates me, but I'm consciously I had to stop, look, choose.
Yes.
And so when you said that your ankles, your legs stopped you.
Yeah. But just like you made a really powerful and valid point. In the last 5 years or so, I developed an acute awareness of who is in my circle, what value are they bringing to me, or what value are they taking away from me? And it's something
or am I allowing them to take away from me? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh.
And as I started becoming more aware of that, and it's a painful process of eliminating people from your circle, people who have, this is the challenge, is that you've had people that you've known for 20 years. And we think that, well, because I've known them for 20 years, I can trust them, they're my friend. But really that whole time they were only tagging along because of what you gave them. And sometimes, and I don't want to be negative, but there are some people who are simply vampires. But once you start becoming aware of who's in your circle, who's looking out for you, who is just draining you of your love, of your vibration, and who is feeding. So I believe that in any healthy relationship, it's a cycle. It's a give and take. I don't give to receive, but if I keep giving, I become empty. And so I need to receive in some capacity. And as I became a bit more self-aware and more selective as to who's in my circle, I also started feeling a shift in my energy, in the way that I started thinking. Because when I speak of nutrition, I use that as a metaphor. It's not just the food that I eat. It's not just the water that I drink. It's the books that I read. It's the people that I listen to. It's the programming that I watch. All of those things start to play a role on your mindset, your emotional state, and your spiritual state. So it's all really crucial. Be very aware of what your surrounding, your environment is. Oh, you've frozen.
Yeah, it's a package deal. It's a package deal. Sorry, there we go. It's a package deal for sure. It's a, I mean, like exactly what you say. That balance was out even in my story of I gave and gave and gave energetically. I was drained. I didn't realize how much over the last few years I have given of myself, and I have allowed me to be hijacked, literally.
Hijacked is a good way. Beautiful
I
metaphor.
was hijacked, and but I allowed. I can't point fingers. When I realized,
right.
you know, you're pointing one, you've got four coming back.
Yeah.
And when you turn it back around and you go, and you start to, well, why am I feeling so miserable? It's because that person said this, or this person did that, or this one's over. And I'm going, no, why am I allowing them to determine my emotional state, my core vibration? And so the exercise over the last couple of years, but especially this in lockdown, you know, when this whole stop, people are getting busy. We are not doings, we are beings.
Yes.
And when you and this art of being is, which has been the journey that I've been on, and sharing it with others, until you know your buzz, you ain't going to be. And I mean, even my happy, you ain't going to be happy. It even rhymes. And I'm painting a wall. I'm painting a bee on the wall. It's my art project for this.
By the way, you bring up art and creativity. Expression is really key. So I'm glad that you're diving into that.
Yes, well, look, exactly. Because look at your painting behind. Because I know you are an incredible artist. I'm your biggest fan. I'm going to come buy one of those one day. I know which one I want. You love doing the black, white, and the hearts.
I do. But what I realized with creativity is a lot of the things that you're talking about. It's also as human beings, we also need to be free to express authentically.
Well, it's an extension of this arm is a paintbrush. The extension of the arm is a pen. The extension of this arm is giving, or it's just an extension of it. We're an energy field. It's just part of our energy field. So to create an energy field where it's not hijacked or dusted by our past. Like you said, when your leg stopped, I literally drew a line in the sand. It was like also rock bottom. Like enough. The story has to change. And Esther Hicks from Abraham Hicks, which is one of my biggest mentors in store, says pivot, and it's literally change direction. You know that image of the end of the earth, where all those angels sort of standing around and they're about to jump off, or someone's about to launch into the stars, like they say surrender and what have you. It literally, I see that picture. I see standing on the edge of a cliff and carrying this heavy heart like a donkey, this heavy cart full of everything that's negative, the old, the dust, the shady stuff. Okay. Now you get to this cliff. What do we do? Like I can't just stand there as a donkey and hold on to my cart. I'm allowed to put it down. And it's a time now, this reset, this whole time now we're being given a gift of drop it, let it go, just stop, sit in a chair and stop.
But
I had to learn to sit in a chair and stop and figure out what Suzie's inner frequency is from what I want. Like I wasn't even comfortable the way I walked. I wasn't even comfortable about, like I felt like I was, you know, you're trying to please people and can I do this and can I do that? And you're just busy and you don't know how to actually be a blob.
Yeah.
And I had to go back, right? And people don't understand that journey and it's a pull, hey, Vital, you can't stop it. You cannot stop it. The train is going, it's something in your blood that's going. And I was seeking. And when I could actually find my being and breathe and not move and just, who is this? And like, what do I like? My little, like, what does Suzie like to do? Should I try painting? Should I try reading? Should I try writing? And I tried little bits of here and there just to figure out my space, no outside influence. Now, what do I want to eat? What do I want to drink? You know, what does my body want? I mean, we spoke about this off camera as well. What does my body want? Everything, when you realize there's a frequency, you can mold your life.
But if you're into
choosing
Rumi,
the high frequency.
But if you're into Rumi, he says that in our silence we find the answers. Basically what you did is you silenced your soul, you silenced your environment, and in that silence you
I
found
met
clarity.
myself. Or I met myself.
Yeah, that's right.
And that is, yeah. And like you, it's an influence of what do you read? Who do you hang around with? What are you listening to? I mean, radios, music, even music. You get these, I'm all out of love. I'm so lost without you. You don't. I'm not a singer yet. I'm working on my vocals. But
don't bring
true.
out the romantic
You're
in me. Yeah. Yeah.
but then you're inviting that. Okay, then I am all out of love. I'm so lost without you. I am. Even the songs that you're miming. I'm
That's
not
what I'm saying.
joking.
Yes, I know.
Everything is what you are attracting. If you linger on it longer enough, if you linger long enough on it, it becomes. It's inviting a frequency, and it's a little zzz that flies in and says, okay, I'm negative, let's just sit here and we'll keep you zzz, and it just becomes gray in your. So if you face forward now and facing this cliff and facing out, it's like, okay, the cart's behind me, what is this new view? And I just have this method that keeps follow the light, and the light just means follow the light, the fun, the lighter, the happy.
Now can I add to that? So you say follow the light. I'm gonna another way of looking. It's the same. Yes. So it's because it's the same metaphor.
To become. Yes. Start because and then be.
You can follow the light, but the light actually is within you. But either way, whichever way you follow it, I still think it comes from within. But oftentimes we don't look within. And earlier on, you mentioned how I have the privilege of speaking to large groups of people. That has been predominantly for organizations. And so with this shift of COVID-19 and everything, I've now found somewhat of a new sense of direction where I've now really began focusing on one-on-one coaching with people. And where I'm going with this is you talked about finding ourselves and being aware. One of the first things in terms of coaching with people is I really want to raise their awareness as what's in your environment, who are you, who were you, who do you want to become? And once they start to embrace or accept this level of self-awareness, they start to create their own aha moments. I don't have to do the work.
Exactly.
I set the stage, they create the play.
It's an on button.
Yes, that's exactly it.
So you create the environment with what material stuff you're bringing in. So you're in the middle, you create it. What am I listening to? The positive, what am I actively choosing to? I mean, I walked onto the beach and drew a line in the sand, literally. After the old, and I made a decision. I walked onto the beach when we could go onto the beach, and I did it. That's the first time I understood that analogy, drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah.
And it was, you make the decision, then you invite everything in that is going to feed the frequency until you can actually hang on to enough of it to stop believing it. So you're going from the inside. In order to be, you have to find me, and then when you find me, the doing comes from the inside. It's inspired action. It's not going, oh my God, I've got to go and make these sales, or I've got to phone people, I've got to whatever I've got to, the doing. It's not, because then you're just getting nothing done, and you're just like, you become that hamster wheel. But when you're in that middle, the cog, when you're that cog, and it all lines up, you don't understand, everything just lines up. The people you speak to, it all comes, it really quite magically comes together.
But you quickly mentioned business there. And so this is something for business people to take away, is that all the things we're talking about right now, these are principles that apply across the board.
They apply
in relationships. They apply in terms of business, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of family.
Health.
It's
everything.
It's collective wellness.
Yes.
But a lot of people oftentimes, and quickly go into the business world, I deal with a lot of executives and large organizations, and they are so preoccupied. You mentioned the being and the doing. Too many people are preoccupied with the doing.
That's all they know.
That's all they know.
That's all they know. That's all we were told to ever do.
But but once people understand that it's not about doing, it's about being, they actually, things just start to happen.
And you
But
stop
it's
fighting the world, and the world stops fighting you, and things come together, and you're
now
just
have
calm.
it is now, having said all that, I'm still in the process. I think the process is never ending. We're always growing and learning. It's not like I've reached nirvana.
Expanding. We're expanding. I like that word, expanding,
But
because
I
we're
also,
remembering our potentials and
and then
everything.
also for people who are listening in, is that, you've come a long way. I've come a long way from, growing up in childcare with an abusive, sexually abusive father and alcoholic mother. I have my journey to travel. Everybody has their demons to overcome and travel. And sometimes, even though you've done the work, like there are days when I've done the work and I feel in a really good place. And then for whatever reason, I sort of have a kind of a relapse. And it's almost of like, okay, recalibrate, Vital. And I kind of have to start
It's a
going back.
wave. Yeah.
It is a wave.
Adjusting.
But because I'm aware of that wave, once I feel that the wave is going in the wrong direction, I now have the tools where I can get it quickly back on track.
Mm.
So it goes back to the awareness factor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think one of the big things that I started doing when I had this awareness was I started loving myself well. Well, I wasn't ill. I started loving myself. Well, it was these anars that come through, these waves of emotion, all that we have from our energy field, and we deal through it. And even the last three, right up until 2 days ago, I mean, I was just having these waves of anger and irritation, everything coming through. I never hit them. I'm like, oh my God, what is it? And I was like, okay, Suzie, you are. So I honored it. And I was like, okay, we got this. We've worked through this. What is it? And I'd analyze it. I analyze a lot of things, this brain. But I've lightened up on it and saying, okay, we've gone through this. We've got this. This is just dust.
Yeah.
And I have loved these energies through me. I have loved the crying. It's okay. I've been my best friend. My inner self, when they say that inner voice, I've met her and she's my best friend. And she, when I have my waves, we hug each other and it's like, we got this together. We can do this. And it's right. Let's go paint. Let's go do something. Let's go meditate. Let's go for a walk. Just change. I literally change. I get off what I'm doing and I go and I walk. Whether I go and jump on the trampoline, I change. Esther Hess says pivot.
Yeah.
I change my frequency, and it's become a habit. Otherwise, you can get sucked in. And I'm over the sucked in. I'm over that. I'm over that old story. That's when you are conscious of it, and when you are in a better space, the healing, or the dusting, as I like to say, it's dusting because it's been there for so long. It's light. It's like wearing a coat. It's just dust. Drop the coat and the dust and the dust off you, and it's a process, but it's so rewarding when you're not so hard on yourself. In the beginning, it's like, you're stupid, what are you doing? You're crying, you're pathetic, beat up, try and put on this brave face for the whole world, as you know. And the entire inside, you're dying.
So
But
what I've learned to do,
lightened up and let it go and change the scenery, and it's now easier to process because there's no hook in it. The hooks are gone.
so you mentioned a couple of things there. You talked about crying. You briefly mentioned crying and anger. So another thing that I've created a positive shift for myself is we tell ourselves, like specifically for men, I'm going to stereotype for a little bit. Men, we can't cry, and women shouldn't feel this. And we have all these programmed things that we've been told. And so what I've learned, and I already did this when I was younger, but I do it now even more. So we are human. We are spirits having a human experience, right?
Exactly.
And a part of the human experience is emotions. So what I've learned to do is, if I feel anger, I don't fight it. I allow the anger to happen, but I allow it to then pass through me. So the key is to not hold on to the anger.
Like open the door.
Open the door.
windows.
I'm feeling angry now. I try to not take it out on anybody because that's not healthy. But if I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling angry. I'm having an emotional experience. And then I do the best that I can to let it get out of me. I have tools that I do that, whether it's working out, whether it's painting, but I make sure that it doesn't manifest. If I feel the need, not that I cry every day, but if I feel the need to cry, it's healthy. And where I'm going with this is I want to encourage people to not resist the emotions. If you're feeling angry, embrace it. If you're feeling sad, embrace it. The key is to not linger and stay in that state, but allow it to pass through you. And since I've done that, I find that I become more resilient. I gain more clarity. I feel more motivated, more energized, because I just allow it to happen. I'm being, again, going back to I'm being, rather than, well, I'm going to do this so that I'm, I am present.
100%.
Eckhart Tolle, have you ever read Eckhart Tolle in
Yes.
The Power of Now?
Power of Now. I've got it next to my bed, and in my car.
For as much as I can, whatever that emotion is, I'm living that emotion, and that's what's happening now.
And that's a whole nother discussion, because that power of now and becoming present. Oh my word, have I learned to just be present. You know, people who are always on their phones or looking at something else, or not even, but to look at someone and be present in their energy field of their conversation. Time stops. Like time stops.
Yes, it does.
And lives are changed.
But to prove that, the cliche way to show how everybody's been in love in their lives, right? We've all been madly in love. When you are madly in love and with that person, time stops. Exactly. It's one of the purest moments of when we are in the moment. We are so into that person. We become one. Our egos disappear. We are in that moment. And imagine if we could, which we can recreate that.
We are. This is what's so exciting about now. I mean, everything that you're doing in your journey now is creating your reality of this high energy, motivated source, just being that influences others by being. And you're in your bliss with your speaking, with your art, with your adding value to others, serving. And it's you know, you can see in the mirror of your life.
I can, thank you. But it's because I found a really deep, meaningful sense of purpose.
Yeah, and not just run with the idea of a project or a career path. Just run with a doing.
Well, it's funny. So again, Cirque du Soleil, amazing professional, personal achievement. Amazing. One of the highlights of my career, right? It was amazing.
Unbelievable. Congratulations. Absolutely.
But here's the thing, is that it was a career achievement, not a spiritual. So how to explain this? When I was at Cirque du Soleil, there was an external reward, a validation. I got the applause and I felt like I was the shit. I was amazing. Now I'm learning to find that sense of purpose and value through giving. And it's strange. I don't hear applause.
No, you don't need the validation,
I need it a lot less. I'm still working at it, but I need it a lot less.
No, me too, but a lot less, 100%. Because you're just in a knowing. You're just in a beautiful knowing.
Yes. Yep. And the joy comes in. You're a giver. I give, and my joy comes in giving. And something you mentioned earlier that I want to reiterate again is what I've learned is I like to give, but I've learned to set and define clear boundaries as to how much I can give. Boundaries is crucial if you want to live maintain a healthy balance. You know, the takers, they'll keep taking.
Energetic, yeah. But that's if you allow them. And so that's when one has to be stern and say, no, enough.
And I had a struggle saying,
but, you know, if you're in...
I had a struggle. I don't know if you experienced this. I used to have a struggle saying no because I felt like I was a bad person.
I know.
Not to mention I was raised...
K-N-O-W, yes.
Yes. But I have trouble saying no because I would feel guilty and I would feel like I was mean and not caring. And I've learned to say no.
We're told you were selfish.
Yes. But there's been this mental shift is that no is perfectly okay and it's perfectly healthy and there's nothing wrong with it. And I actually don't need to validate the no.
100%. Like,
and
it's
no. It has empowered me. Yeah.
No, thank you. No, thank you. And it's a way you say it. I mean, obviously, so, no,
Well,
or no,
yes.
thank you.
Yes, you can always be firm,
Exactly.
but
But to
respectful and
ourselves,
kind.
it's how we're speaking to ourselves, how you say no.
Haha.
Everything. I mean, have you stopped and listened to how you speak to yourself? When I met myself and I realized I was speaking to myself, I was horrified. I was horrified how I spoke to myself. Horrified. I had no idea that my inner voice was speaking to it was such an aha when somebody turned the lights on. That inner voice, when you haven't met it, and when you suddenly meet it, wow, powerful.
Well, I'm glad you did, because again, I see the shift in energy in appearance. Now, the average person, I would say more than the average person, we all have this inner dialogue, and we have, oh, you suck and you're no good. No, you're pretty good. You're amazing. No, you're not. And I'm going to be blatantly honest. I still have that struggle, but as long as I'm working at it, because again, we are never the finished article. I would hope that you never reach the point where you're like, you know what, I'm done.
No.
I'm good enough. The minute you think you're good enough, you actually begin to
No.
deteriorate.
No.
So for me, it's still a constant.
No.
It's a constant
You're
work
going
in
into ego
progress.
then. No.
But I think an important part of our message is I also want people to understand, my clients, my customers, hey, just because I'm motivating you and I'm giving you all these actionable tools doesn't mean that I'm above. I've also learned to express vulnerability, because I think it's crucial when we help others is to let them know that, hey, I do struggle.
You
I
are
don't,
people. 100%.
yeah, we are still humans, and I always
Well
want to make
being.
sure that people understand, because I never want to come across as a hypocrite where, yeah, but you said to do this, and then I struggle like every human being. But this is the thing, in getting older and wiser and becoming more conscious, the struggle is getting less. It's getting less
100%.
painful.
And this is where this collective is kicking in, with more and more people starting to have self-love and starting to actually find their voice and starting to find their beings. It's a frequency. It's buzzing. So it's all just elevating everybody. And it's easier. You're not alone. So I just want to check how we're doing for time, because I want you to find out about your new book.
The new book.
I know.
Actually, it's funny. I've actually launched 2 books in the last 6 months. And
oh, wow.
I've also now got into, I'm training and coaching people to write books, because my first book took me 8 years. It took me 8 years to write it and 8 years to get it published, because I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know the how. Here I am now, 10 years later, and I can now write a solid book in months, because I now have the steps. So the last 2 books have been published within 6 months of each other. The most recent one is called Reaching Higher, and it actually taps into some of the things we're talking about. It was all because I started looking back and asking myself, okay, how did I get out of my depression? How did I find a sense of peace and a sense of purpose? And I basically wrote these 21 little bullet points of 21 simple strategies on how to keep your attitude positive. And ironically, we actually spoke about some of them. They're very simple. Crying was one of them. Allow yourself to cry. It's actually the body letting you know it needs to cleanse itself, and
it's having a wash. Exactly.
It's the wash.
Rinsing.
The other one was music. We talked about music. Music is one of those things that can help you change your mood if you listen to the right music.
Yeah, 100%. I listen to frequency music on the whole time I have it going. You can actually find tons of stuff of frequency just in the background, and it elevates everything.
Yeah. So I'm very proud of, these books, and it's great when I can give them to clients. And it's funny. So one client, I don't know how you find your clients. Sometimes we network and we market, and then other times they find us. And one of my clients had read the book. They find us because they're meant to. We show up when they need us. And this one client had read the book, and within 5 minutes of closing the book, she texts me and says, "I just read your book. Will you be my coach?" So it is nice to know that I can.
Beautiful.
We help people, and it's so nice to know that we can help people and help transform people's lives. That's why we're here. And
absolutely, and as you say, nobody is better than the next person. All it is we're just holding hands now. There's that lovely circle of, I think, is a candle holder with all the friends holding pottery, holding hands. And we're in this together. It's just that some of us, it's just different stages. It's just different stages. But with this reset and with this lockdown and everything now, it literally has locked down people. And we've been given such a valuable time at the moment to literally go and find your quiet place. I mean, at least go sit quietly somewhere. Find a corner, if it's the corner of the garage or property, because you can't leave. Go find under a tree, go find bottom of the pantry, anywhere where you can just go and be in your happy little place to have time being.
I agree, but here's my fear.
And
go ahead, I'll let you finish the thought, because I wanted you always trigger off these thoughts in me.
No.
So with what you just said, it is a beautiful thing. And I've seen a lot of my friends through this COVID-19, through the global slowing down. I'm seeing this shift. So my only fear is that we've slowed down. We've gotten more in touch with ourselves. I believe that human connection has elevated. So my fear is that when all this is said and done, it will be a different world. I just hope that people learn the lesson and they stay on the path and they don't fall back into the same over-consumerism, over-stimulation that because we've become grounded. We're realizing what's really important in life, and it's the simple things. Human connection, quality time with people that we love, appreciating the simple things. I hope that we can stay there when all this is said and done.
I think, I also hope so. And I think that there will be enough people. I mean, I just look at the family that I'm staying with now in lockdown, friends of mine, and I've been here 3 months, and we don't recognize each other to what 3 months ago was. I mean, they were dreaming and looking at options because they've got jobs and, own businesses and things. But they, for the first time in their lives, are actually dreaming and making plans for a better future with their 4 children. And everything shifting from growing vegetables to taking shifts on it just works, but it's been a process. And without a doubt, I know us as a collective will go into the future, even though, is from now, you create your reality now. My frequency now, by living in the present, I don't even think of the future because I just know it's amazing because my now is amazing. Your vibration now vibrates into the next second, and the next second becomes a minute, becomes an hour, becomes a day, becomes a week, becomes a month. You become you become. And I really hope that people who are resetting now are finding that being, but they're really finding it solidly, so that they have not the fear frequency in them, they have the hope, they have something. That old story is done, I'm done with it. So it's the trust and the faith of the unknown. That's where the fear can sit in. Yes. And so if you create the vision of or it's not even a vision, if you just be, this takes you into literally the next step and into the day, and inspiration comes. If you're aligned in the presence, it's just your present in the story or now. If you're aligned with it and you are so in tune with it and you live in that gratitude, you're in that frequency, the phone calls come. You've got your list of to-do things. Your phone calls come, your connections come, inspired inspiration comes, business comes. It comes, as let's say, if it's to be, it comes to me. And it's not a selfish thing, it's a vibrational thing. People get I must phone Suzie, I must phone Vital, I must get, or they on the internet, they're searching, they see your page, Vital Germaine, and they see coach, speaker, author, and the energy is looking for you, it finds you. So if it's to be, it comes. You don't have to go seeking and because that's almost like a detection.
Yeah.
Rather become the magnet, because we are a magnetic force, but it has to start from the inside. So yeah, what would be your message now with the slowdown now? People obviously process. What's your take? What's your give now to them as we wind down, like Vitel's love message to the world?
Well, the message, that's exactly it. The message is love, is that you've found this we're entering a new world, a new era. Embrace it, don't fight it, learn the lessons. As we talked about, learn to embrace the now. And what I'm going to end with is a word that you used. You used the word hope, and I don't even know if you were aware of that. It's one of my favorite, most powerful words. It's a tattoo that I wrote on my wrist. Hope in Japanese, Kibo. And
it's your dog.
It is my dog too. It's Kibo. And so I think my message, I'm a romantic. And when I mean I'm a romantic, I don't mean holding hands on the beach. I'm a romantic in terms that I always like to think of how things will end up in the right place at the right time, the way that they should be.
Happily ever after. Yes.
Yes. But to fuel that, I live with hope, optimism, belief. And so that's what gets me through the hard days. And it's what has brought me to the good days. So I guess maybe my final message is embrace more love, bring more love into your life, give more love, live with hope, enthusiasm. And as I'm seeing with you, everybody has the ability to transform their lives by becoming more self-aware. You are the living example. I've seen you change 360 in a short amount of time. And so anybody who's going through transformation, just keep believing, keep hoping, keep working on yourself, and keep being. That's it. Keep being love. It's that simple. Suzie, thank you so much for having me on. I'm honored.
My Suzie Sayz, so early in the morning. My God, I had to wake
all
up.
The way from,
man.
I know, all the way from Las Vegas.
So you can see the connection. There's a big energy connection. I'm so
keep doing what you do. I'm blessed to have encountered you, to be a part of your frequency now. So thank you.
Oh, you've been around for a while, and I so love who you represent. And in the masculine, you really do. You're a rock star, and I work with the feminine and the masculine things, and it's been a big journey of mine to see new men evolve, and new men come out, and new men find their softness, and new men be vulnerable, and this new that we all have in us, but still own your man in you. And it's so powerful to have men who know themselves, and women who know themselves, and beings who know themselves, what they are capable of, to go in, to come out. And it's been a world and a society that we have been brought up in, and you and I are both maturer than we were years ago, and we've got our second half of our life, although I'm definitely another 100 years I'm in for this. I'm so excited to be on this planet now. But the old story of what we were so conditioned into, the moment I realized in my being that it was over, it's done, that I get to write the new one. And it was such empty words, and people say, write your own story, write your own. What are you talking about? That it's a frequency thing. It's a choice thing, with those little things, like you say, of what you listen to, what you, in my case, it was even down to what I was eating. I mean, my body, I literally said, we're creating this frequency. What does this new body of mine want to eat? And opening the fridge, I headed into the vegetables and the fruits, and stopped all we spoke, but the heavy stuff and everything. I started honoring me, but just listening to me. And I have a plate of food in front of me, even just half is eaten, because I don't feel you don't have to force old stories or finish your plate. Everything's gone. Everything's gone.
You know what?
It's just now what you want to create.
But a part of it is because you found yourself, because you found more internal love and self-awareness and heightened spirituality, you no longer need
I
the
don't, yeah, I
the
don't even like
comfort
that word.
foods, but you
Oh, no.
but you no longer
Yes,
crave or desire the comfort food to give you the illusion of feeling full.
100%. I mean, Vital, I used to eat a slab of chocolate a day, a big slab.
Okay,
Aero bubbly mint was my
I'm gonna
favorite.
I'm gonna admit my one vice is chocolate. Leave
Yeah,
chocolate
no, but
alone.
you can.
Chocolate.
I know, but it was because I was looking for sweetness in my life. I mean,
Yeah.
food is got when you start. I've had such a relationship with food this year, which I mean, it's when you realize why am I eating it. But then I started eating chocolate. I stopped eating it, but now I eat it with love and no guilt. And
Well, now you're
so
getting
it
in,
doesn't sit on.
but now you're
So
getting into
and I'm
mindfulness.
yes, and I appreciate it. So I know it's going straight through my body.
Yeah.
It's not staying. It's a different way of eating food or approaching because my frequency is different. So everything's different. It's just facing forward now, facing the light, becoming the light, being and eating for my light,
Yeah.
basically, and
Well,
living for my light. Everything.
what we
Consumption.
put
But
in our
I,
body
yeah,
is what we put in our body is going to have an impact on how we respond, how we think, how we interact. It's all a part of the
everything. People into our space, people into our food, people, environment. Everything is your home, at home frequency. And that at home, if you see us all walking around in little circles of energy bubbles, pick your bubble. Pick your bubble.
So that's something quickly to add. You mentioned the term bubble. So in terms of energy, what I've learned to do in the last 3, 4, 5 years is create a protective energy bubble for me. And it has helped me protect myself from forces that
Absolutely.
maybe aren't looking out for me or that don't align with me. So I can kind of somewhat keep to my authentic energy.
Have to.
Yeah. And so I visualize a bubble.
Yeah, you put if you put yourself in I put myself in a lilac cocoon, lilac bubble. And yeah, because there are a lot of there's good, there's there's a lot of energy coming up this week. So I feel like we're in the eye of the storm of what things are going down now. So people are starting to churn and wake up now. Now I can feel the engine going of people, and things are going to start moving very quickly now.
Well, in
The
Vegas,
collective consciousness is.
it'll be interesting to see what happens
The collective
because
consciousness is big, yeah.
a week ago, Vegas reopened in its first phase. It will be interesting to see what happens energetically as tourism comes back, and it will be very interesting to see what happens.
And who and what and yeah. So, my dear friend, well, all I know is that it doesn't matter what happens. Stay tuned. Whatever happens, this man is going to fly. He's a trapeze artist. He flies without a net.
Now I fly. Oh, I see what you did there. I now fly metaphorically without a net. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Suzie, again, it's been a pleasure. That was my first book.
Oh, thank you so much.
Keep up the beautiful work you're doing, and reach out anytime.
Well, and you are such an angel. Thank you. I'm going to stop recording, and then you are such a star, and thank you. And I can't wait for our next conversation because I just love speaking to you. You and I speak for hours. All right.
I look forward to it. Bye, love.
Let me stop this.
All right, unofficially, I'm going to really wish you a good night. Suzie, you're awesome. Literally, now off the record, you're awesome. I feel so privileged to have been a part of this thing, and thank